So my book is about, it's titled Don't Just Pay Taxes, and how entrepreneurs can view tax as a possibility and not as a cost.
I'm struggling with that right now. How do we do that?
Okay, lovely. I used to teach tax in India. I was a prof for about 15 years,
Okay.
trained over 10,000 accountants in the subject.
Wow.
And it was in my second year of setting up my own practice of DVS, where we raised an invoice from India to a West African client. And the invoice was, let's say, $100,000. And the client said there is going to be a 30% withholding tax. I said, like, okay, 30% withholding tax, at least you can claim credit in my home country. And then he said, our local revenue authorities don't have a system of issuing tax credit certificates. So, which means I had to pay an additional 40% tax on that amount. So, which effectively tantamount to 70% tax on what I was charging my client. And
Wow.
that was, and this was when I was teaching tax. That was brutal when this happened to me in life. And that's when my real journey in life started to understand what tax is all about. And it was a almost 1,500-year-old story which came when the Islamic rulers, when they went and invaded nations or societies, they levied something called jizya, which was a tax levied on non-Muslim population, people who did not practice Islam.
Okay.
If you don't practice Islam, you have to pay jizya tax. But they also gave an exemption. If you send people from your family to the military, this tax will be waived,
Huh.
which meant tax was not about collecting money, it was about aligning public behavior. So if you do what the government wants you to do, you don't need to pay tax. You only get rewarded by incentives. That instance changed my life. This was in 2012, if I'm not wrong. It was on a Sunday morning. And from there, I started to see the world of taxation as a behavioral science subject, not as a fiscal levy. It was a completely different dimension of existence, Dave. I mean, today, if you look at in the US, if you were to set up semiconductor plants in the US, if you were to manufacture something which you are importing from China, you would be rewarded not only by the federal, even by your state government, because you create jobs, which is a matter of uh, priority for the government. You reduce dependency on an external market, which is a matter of paranoia for the government. When you do that, without even looking at the regulations, I can tell you, you will have tax holidays. You will have incentives being given in terms of free land, reduced duties, reduced taxes. So that's when you start to realize tax is a cost for non-alignment.
Hmm.
If you align what you do with what the government wants you to do, government is your ally. You don't need to pay him. You are helping him build the system he wants to build.